I've been in room with investors, athletes, creators, operators pulling millions a year. I've also coached a few hundred of them and invested in about 40. And I've never, not once, met an elite founder who was visibly overweight. Not because they're obsessed with aesthetics, but because to them, being out of shape is a psychological crime. It signals a lack of urgency, of control, of self-respect. And that same weakness leaks into how you think and how you execute. Being overweight implies not taking control of your fitness, and elite founders can't tolerate a lack of control in their business or in anywhere else. Their physique is just a byproduct of how they think and get things done. And today I'll show you how to install the same mental defaults so you can avoid the fat in every domain of your life. I'm Castillo, founder of Selfmastered, and what I'm about to share might make you uncomfortable, but it's the truth that separates elite performers from everyone else. And this is not about vanity. It's not about looking good on Instagram. It's about the psychology of excellence. It's about how your standards in one area create a ripple effect in every other area of your life. If you ever wonder why some founders seem to have the magic touch while others struggle with consistency across multiple domains, this is why. The hard truth is that you cannot be a winner in one area and not be a winner in every other area you decide to play in. Conversely, you can't be a loser in one domain and expect to win in another. Winners always win, losers always lose. Why? Because the brain is a pattern recognition machine. It synchronizes itself with everything that you do, and it creates thoughts, emotions, and behaviors according to the identity you built on top of it. And every standard you tolerate in one area sets the floor for every other area. This is why how you do one thing is how you do everything, because everything you do is a vote towards an identity that you're building, and it always shows up the same way. If you skip workouts, you will skip hard conversations. If your mornings are reactive, your team will be reactive too. If you tolerate junk in the fridge, you'll tolerate junk in the calendar. The solution is do what elite performers do. Raise the floor in every domain and synchronize it in health, work, rest, mindset so that the whole system operates at peak performance. This way, the subconscious mind holds no friction. It just sees excellence everywhere. That's how you create unstoppable psychological momentum. Because when your brain is seeing excellence as the default, it stops questioning whether you're capable of excellence in new domains. It just assumes you are. I'm sure you've heard this quote 1,000 times, that you don't rise to your vision, you fall to the level of your systems. And that is partially good. But here's the problem. A system that does not reward your behavior is just a glorified checklist. It's not about relying on motivation to get things done. It's about engineering the systems that make execution automatic. So you eventually win by rewarding your brain for peak performance. So when pressure hits, you fall to the level of your mental default. That is the game. Install systems in your mind so the worst day outperform the average founder's best day. That is habit synchronicity. That is when you're consistent across domain, when you're disciplined without negotiation, and every area that you're mediocre right now is proof of a system you've never built. Your life at the end is just the output of your mental wiring. If you upgrade your mental defaults, you upgrade everything. At the brain level, here's what happened. When you consistently meet high standards, you strengthen the neural pathways of excellence. When you consistently tolerate mediocrity, you strengthen neural pathways of acceptance. And the brain does not care whether those patterns are good or bad, it just reinforces what you repeat. So over time, these patterns become automatic. Elite performers have trained their brains to find mediocrity uncomfortable, and average performers have trained their brains to find excellence uncomfortable. Same mechanism, totally opposite outcomes. That is why elite founders, elite performers of any kind, excel across multiple domains. The brain has been trained to find anything else than excellence psychologically uncomfortable. So they naturally optimize everything they touch. If you want to start this process, let's do first a standards audit. Take an honest look at your life right now. What time do you wake up? How often do you work out? How much are you able to focus every day? What happens when you are under intense stress? How do you communicate with hard conversations? Every one of these is a sign of whether you are operating at the level you want. The good news is that anyone can go from mediocre standards to raising the floor with the right training, because you are never stuck with your current patterns. Your brain is neuroplastic. It can be rewired, and it can happen quite fast. If you want to get started, here's a very quick protocol that I teach my client. First, do a tolerance audit. List everything you're tolerating right now. The habits, routine, and reactions that don't match your ambition. The things you are ashamed of. And be brutally honest. Where are you accepting mediocrity? Once you're clear on what needs to be changed first, then map the systems behind them. Step 2, systematic. For example, in fitness, if you are having mediocre sleep or mediocre nutrition, what's the system behind it? If you cannot focus at work, what's the system behind it? If you have no good relationship, what's the system behind it? Instead of focusing on willpower and what needs to be done, focus on the system that will yield the outcome you want. And finally, step 3, work at the bottleneck. Find the thing that is most urgent. Create a system to solve that bottleneck and then execute the system like your life depends on it, because it really does. And that is how you get better, because every bottleneck solved removes friction. Every friction removes upgrades identity. And before long, you have elevated your standards across all domains without friction. Let me give you a very concrete example. One client of ours, Ravi, was struggling with consistency in his business. We identified his biggest bottleneck. He was inconsistent sleep. He was waking up reactive, checking his phone immediately, starting the day behind, not really being fully fresh. So what we did is we installed a system that started the night before. We gave him a few protocols to fix his sleep that we took from NASA and the Navy SEALs. We also set a consistent sleep schedule. We revamped his routine to elevate his protein. We changed his exercise routine. We give him protocols for execution during the day. And within 2 weeks, something has shifted. He was putting in more work than ever before. He made better decisions. He started making the hard choices easier. And eventually he started doing more outreach. Not because we taught him outreach, because his brain recognizes that he was the time to elevate his standards across the board. 6 months later, his business has scaled 300%. Not because of the sleep protocols themselves, but because of the identity momentum that it created. That's the key insight, because when you make something non-negotiable in one domain, your brain generalizes that pattern to other domains. And when you negotiate with yourself in one area, your brain assumes negotiation is acceptable in every other area. Elite performers understand this viscerally. That's why they're obsessive about seemingly small things. I'm very much obsessive about small things, that any friend or my wife will tell you, because it's not about the thing itself, it's about training the pattern of excellence. And that's why I've never seen an elite founder who was overweight, because it's never about having Instagram-worthy physique. It's about using physical standards as a gateway to psychological excellence, because your body is the one thing you have complete control over, and how you treat what you control completely determines how you treat everything else in your life. Elite founders aren't fit because they care about aesthetics. They're fit because anything less than excellence would fracture their identity. Mediocrity in the fitness realm, which means being fat, feels like betrayal. And that is how I want you to live. Having standards so high that inconsistency feels disgusting. If you want to really install this level of psychological momentum that would pretty much guarantee that you succeed in business and have the same mental defaults as elite founders, book a coding session with us. And we're gonna audit your standards across all domains, identify what is the bottleneck that needs to be solved first, and what are the systems that will give you the outcomes you deserve. That is how you win this beautiful game of business, by building a healthy repulsion to anything that dulls your edge. Because when you stop tolerating fat and softness in your body, you'll stop tolerating it in your business, in your calendar, in your life. Every moment you're choosing your identity. Every standard you accept or reject is a vote. And elite performers have simply decided that mediocrity is not an option in any domain. Your physique is not about vanity. Your morning routine is not about productivity, and your business systems aren't about efficiency. They're all about identity. They're all about choosing who you want to become. And if you want to win at this beautiful game of business, you must absolutely become an elite founder or be cooked by someone who is. See you on the call.